So the first activity that we're going to start with is take a moment to develop some opinions on your own here. Okay? So think to yourself, what are the factors that determine my student's experience? Bottom line, when a student walks away from an AIARE Level 1 course, what are the factors that you think are going to control the end result a year later, 5 years later? What are the factors that are going to drive your students' take-home experience from your course? So think about that for a second. All right, the next step is I want you to pair up with somebody nearby. Okay, and we're going to take a few minutes and have some small private conversations. It'll get kind of loud, I imagine. That's okay. Give them a chance to develop their own opinion. Then give them a chance to bounce that opinion off in a small, comfortable, informal setting before you then ask them to put that opinion out on the bulletin board for other people to form opinions on. So now we have the difficult task of soliciting some opinions without listening to everybody in the room. Because I don't think any of us want to sit here and listen to lists of 3 things. So instead, we're going to use the famous device called the Wheel of Mirth. And the way the Wheel of Mirth works here is Vanna Wheeler is going to spin the mirth. And then we're going to run, it's the classic.
Okay.
Well, I have to stop talking.
Now touch your nose.
Yep, spin them the other way.
Oh man, I don't know.
Vomiting.
Okay, slowing down, slowing down, slowing down.
We're going to move forward here and think about our role if we're at the beginning of a season. That's where we start every year. We kind of have to refigure our game plan for the upcoming year. We may have new venues with new permits. We almost certainly are going to be working with new people. We may be reformatting our courses because of curriculum elements. We may have just had an insight about how we want to approach our students differently this year. We basically start off at this same point at square one every season. And so what do you guys think forms the core of what our students' experience has to be based around? And I heard you guys say the learning outcomes, and I think that's it. I think the learning outcomes are what AIARE cares most about. That's the center point of our course. If you can't meet the learning outcomes, if you have a great 3-day adventure in the mountains, and you kind of talk about some avalanche stuff here and there, that isn't what makes it a level 1 avalanche course. The bottom line issue, everything builds around the learning outcomes. So from there, AIARE is going to bring in some additional infrastructure. These are key components that help tie the material together. And in fact, in a lot of ways, they are the material. It's the actual curriculum or content of the course. We have the decision-making framework. We've got the field book, the student manual, and then for us as instructors, the instructor manual. And that infrastructure provides the support for kind of what we talk about on the course. But there's so much more to what defines your course relative to someone else's. And that's this outer realm of all the touchy-feely stuff that we all recognize as being the really key components. And so a nice way of, it's just one way of looking at it is our job as an instructor is to model, to mentor, and to measure. So maybe I can grab Vanna Wheeler again to take some ideas. What do these words mean for you guys? What does it mean to be a good model for your students? they need to see us observe things so that they take that as their sense of norm. We're building a reference experience of their sense of normalcy on the course. If a student goes through a course and they can dismiss our actions as, well, that's what you do on an avalanche course. If that's how they perceive it, then we've done our students a huge disservice. Instead, we need to show them what it's like to just go travel in the backcountry. And we have to do it at their level. So we have to show them how to observe, but it's got to be relevant and practical for them at their level. We don't want to go and make observations that they don't understand. It's not our job to make ourselves look really cool in front of our students. It's our job to show them what we think they should do when they leave the class. So some of the key points here for modeling are we want to make sure that our students are seeing things through a perspective that's appropriate and relevant for them. So we want to model things not as the way we do it, but we want to model things as the way they're going to see as a reference for what they're going to do in the future, appropriated for that stage in the game. And we always want to have a good game plan.
These are the questions that we ask as professionals. This is the approach, the mental model we have. Certainly, this is the level 1 student is capable of learning and growing with that at their pace, at their level. So we don't want to deprive them of a thinking process just because we use it. And that's the last thing we want to do. That's how the DMF came about. We stepped back and we said, how do we make decisions? And that was a huge metamorphosis in how we approach education.
Well, that's a great segue, bringing our experience to the table as mentors. So part of it's modeling. Let's talk about mentoring. What does that mean to people? That if we're not observing their progress and we're not cognizant of our own role as an instructor, and how are we doing? Are we connecting with the students? Are they meeting the learning outcomes? Are we checking in as we go and adjusting our game plan as necessary? So mentoring and measuring, those two things in my eyes go exactly hand in hand. Without one, the other doesn't work. And the modeling is essential because they have no frame of reference. So the three components work together, and if any one of those doesn't work well for our students, their end experience is not going to be that great.